Section 1.1, Expressions and Variables. A numerical expression consists of numbers and operations. An example of this would be 2 plus 3, or 4 times 5. It just has numbers and operations. A variable is a letter used to represent one or more numbers. For example, the letter A can be a variable, or X, Y, pretty much any letter can be used to represent one or more numbers and be called a variable. A variable expression consists of numbers, variables, and operations. An example of this is 5 plus X, or 4 times X, n divided by 5. To evaluate a variable expression, you substitute a number for each variable and evaluate the resulting numerical expression. When I say the word evaluate, it pretty much means to solve. Again, it's to substitute or replace a number for each variable and then find the answer. Verbal model describes a problem using words as labels and math symbols to relate those words. So whatever the number is, they'll describe it in words and then use math symbols in between. Remember, when you write a variable expression involving multiplication, remember to avoid using the symbol x. It may be confused with the variable x. So now, when we write 4 times A, we don't want to use that x anymore because it looks like a variable. We want to use 4 and either a dot next to A, or you can just place them next to each other. Remember, if you have two numbers that you're multiplying, you can use parentheses as well to depict that, or you can use the dot in between. Example 1. Evaluate the expression 3 times b when b equals 90. Remember, evaluate means to substitute the number in for b. We know that b is 90, so what is 90 times 3? You may need to set it up vertically. $270 is the answer. Example 2. Evaluate the expression when x equals 9 and y equals 5. Let's replace x with 9 and y with 5. What is 9 plus 5? 14 is the answer. For part B, we are now multiplying. When two variables are right next to each other, it means multiplying. You can see I'm going to place a parentheses surrounding the y so that we can tell that 9 times 5. So it's not 95, it's 9 times 5. What is 9 times 5? 45 is the answer. It is now your turn to solve the checkpoint. You are evaluating the expression when x equals 8 and y equals 2. So you first want to substitute the variables with the numbers they told you in the directions and then solve. You need to pause the video at this time. Number 1, 8 plus 12 is 20. Your answer is 20. Number 2, x is 8 minus y is 2. 8 minus 2 is 6. Number 3, 8 divided by 2 is 4. The answer is 4. Here are some common words and phrases that indicate operations. Addition, you may see the word plus, the phrase the sum of, increased by, total, more than, or added to. For subtraction, we may use the word minus, or the phrase the difference of, decreased by, fewer than, less than, and the phrase subtracted from. For multiplication, we use times, the product of, multiplied by, and the tiny word of. You will see that word of by itself, and that means multiplication. In the phrase the difference of or the sum of, that of does not mean multiplication because it has sum and difference before it. And even the product of, well, the product is multiplication. But when of is just by itself, that means multiplication. For division, we may see the words divided by, divided into, or the quotient of. And again, here's that phrase, the quotient of, which all relates to the product of, the difference of, and the sum of. We are now going to write a variable expression. So that has a variable, a number, and an operation. You have a 350-page manuscript that needs to be edited very quickly. You are going to divide the number of pages among several editors. You want to give the same number of pages to each editor. Use a verbal model to write a variable expression for the number of pages given to each editor if you know the number of editors. For the solution, we need to let the variable e represent the number of editors. The phrase divide indicates that we are doing what operation? Division. You can see they use the word divide up in the paragraph. We know that we want to find the number of pages for each editor. They told us that at the very last sentence. You know the total number of pages. That was up here, 350. And you know you need to divide by the number of editors. This is a verbal model. You can see they put words where we're going to eventually put numbers in. And they use the symbol for division. So how many total number of pages were in the manuscript? 350. And divide that by the number of editors, which we do not know. Now that you are getting into some higher level math, you will start to not use this division sign. You will start to use a fraction bar. So we'll have 350 because it's the first number, that's the numerator, divided by, which is the fraction bar, e. That's what this says over here or in your note-taking guide. So the variable expression is 350 divided by e, or 350 with the fraction bar over e. Remember, when you write a variable expression involving division, use a fraction bar instead of the division symbol that we used in elementary school. For example, write the quotient of n and 12 as n over 12.